Could all of you please close your eyes? Kia ora. My name is Madeline. I'm a 5'8" female with ginger blonde hair. I'm wearing long flowy pants with a black t-shirt. Beside me are some green ferns, and behind me is a big TV with my slideshow on it. Today I'm going to be talking about inclusivity, exclusion, and disabilities, and how it has affected me as a younger sibling to my sister, Molly. May I now ask you to open your eyes? For those of you that were blindfolded, could you picture me? And for those of you that were deaf, could you understand what I was saying? Thank you for doing this with me. This is what some people with disabilities have to deal with on the daily. When I was born, Molly was 3. She was born blind in one eye with an intellectual disability as well as a chromosome disorder. In one of her chromosomes, in her Q arm of her chromosome, she has a break in it. This means she's missing 31 genes. Growing up around a sister with disabilities was easy at first, as I didn't really understand it. It was all I had ever known. It was normal to me. When I'd see people looking at her differently, with curiosity or disgust eyes, I thought to myself, why is this? I didn't know there was anything wrong with her, or even different. She was just Molly, my big sister. When I was 5, Molly was 8. We started school on the same day with Molly going into the class above me. This is when I started to understand that something was different about my big sis. Every morning, we would gather on the mat to hear about the day. I would sit with my peers and friends, whereas Molly couldn't due to her sensory issues, and she would get impatient. She had to sit with her support worker, away from her new friends. Even during meal times, she would do this. I'd be outside on the playground running around, as I always seem to do, and I'd look over and Molly would be inside with her support teacher, as she wasn't welcomed into groups because she wasn't seen as normal. At that age, I didn't fully understand why it had to be this way. Why was she not getting treated fairly, like the rest of us? As I grew older, I started to see the exclusion my sister was facing. When I turned 6, I sat outside the deck with my friends and watched Molly from a distance, as I always seem to do. I saw 2 boys walking over to her. They started tapping her on her shoulder, laughing and giggling amongst themselves, when all of a sudden, one of them took her glasses and threw them on the ground like they were nothing. I ran over to check to see if she was okay. She was not. She was upset and worried because she couldn't see. They started tapping her on her shoulder, constantly giggling and laughing like it was some joke. They tried to push her again, so I shoved back, gave him a slap on the face. I thought it was the right thing to do at first. Long story short, it resulted in us moving schools. Oopsies, sorry about that, guys. This time we started at Montessori, a new school where we were promised that things would be different. It was a temporary improvement, and I started to see the exclusion my sister was facing a lot more. As for me, I was not given the support that I needed to thrive academically. I was falling through the cracks like Molly was. Luckily, Molly wasn't bullied at Montessori school, but she still wasn't given the support that she needed to thrive academically there. We stayed at this school though, as there were no other options, and 3 years later, we graduated. Molly went to the Wairarapa College to start her secondary schooling, and I went to Hadlow Intermediate. Once again, Molly's school was not inclusive at all. It was a tiny unit behind this massive mainstream school with a playground, tables, football fields. Compared to Molly's unit, with a massive wall around it, there was no playground. There was no tables outside for her and her friends to go run around. There was nothing, just grass and dirt. They weren't allowed to interact with the mainstream school either. So my dad bought them a playground so they had something to do on their lunch break. My introduction to my intermediate school also brought aspects of exclusion and bullying, but in a different form. I was literally introduced as a younger sibling of a disabled family. I was identified that way. Sorry. I started to get anxiety that presented as stomach pains. I started faking a lot just to not be at school. Oh my God, what is happening? Golly. Hold on. When it came time for my graduation night at intermediate school, I really didn't want to go. But my parents insisted, and there in front of staff, students and families, I was excluded and bullied, prompting us to leave early with my parents fiercely confronting them on our way out. Thanks for bringing my back. Needless to say, my early school experiences brought aspects of exclusion, bullying, and lack of support from my sister and I. Despite attempts to address these issues, I had feelings of isolation, frustration, and disappointment within the educational system, like, golly. When I was 13, I started college with a new mindset that things would be different. I made friends within the first couple of weeks, but due to previous years, I lost a lot due to who my sister was. I had hopes of staying here for the rest of my college years, but just a couple of weeks later, I found out that we were moving again, this time to Taranaki for a new education, a new school for Molly. I settled in easy to this new school I was at here in Taranaki. I made some friends who I still have today, but I also met some people that are very unforgiving. I was welcomed into this group as the new project, as they would say. I thought I was being included, and these people were my friends, until I got into bad habits, like ditching school, failing classes, and drugs. When I decided to leave these group, I was looking pale and unhappy in truth. And when I decided to leave this group of people, it resulted in me getting beaten up consistently and chased around school for a whole term. This one time, I got locked in a bathroom with 5 people. 2 boys outside making sure no one could get in or out, and 3 girls inside banging on the door. It got worse and worse where I was having trouble breathing. I started faking having tummy pains again just to not be at school. As I went through more and more makeup and foundation bottles to cover up the bruises all over my body, it was time to tell my family that I didn't want to be at that school anymore, and that it wasn't helping my education or my well-being. With Molly finally being happy at her new college and having friends, it was time to address my issues. So we looked around at some new schools, and my Auntie Kate mentioned Greenstone, New Zealand. I was so happy to come here and thrive in an environment where I'm comfortable and happy in. I made friends within a couple of weeks that I still have today, and I'm very thankful for you guys. I wasn't identified by my sister's disabilities here, though I found that not many people knew what the word disabilities meant. Every time I sat at a sister with disabilities, people would say things like, "What?" Or, "What does that mean?" I found myself having to explain it over and over again, and instead of being teased about it, it felt different. It felt good, really good. This planted a seed for my Greenstone. At first, it was RDA, Writing for the Disabled. I researched this project for a whole year. Jokes. For a whole term. Oh God. For a whole term. But then I found out it was going to be a lot more than a year's worth of work. So, in term 2, I changed my Greenstone to inclusivity, exclusion, and disabilities. Having experienced so much exclusion both as a sister and as a teenager in my own right, it made sense for me to bring inclusion to all the families. To bring inclusivity to mainstream schools and especially to the disabled community. I started contacting people like New Plymouth Girls High School and Spotswood College, asking them if I could interview the disabled students and the staff there. I never heard back from them. Though, I heard back from Erica Perry, who was one of Molly's really close friends who takes her out and about and teaches her key life skills, like money management, crossing the road, and ordering her own food, especially from McDonald's, Also through Fire Sarah, I met this lady, Priyanka Radhakrishnan. She is the Minister for the Community and Voluntary Sector, Minister for Disability Issues, Minister for Diversity, Inclusion, and Ethnic Communities. We discussed the issues that people with disabilities face in mainstream schools. She told me that the mainstream education for kids with disabilities needs to be raised, as there is not enough support for kids with disabilities there. She also said that maybe creating a program would be a great start and maybe teach students and staff. I wanted the program to be easy, but interesting enough for the students to go off and research on their own. Here are some photos of the Year 11s and Years in 12s and 13s that I did a workshop with a couple weeks back. The aim of the workshop was to get them to think differently and from a different perspective of a disabled person. I took half of the group and we went for a walk, and they were blindfolded with a bamboo stick that I made myself at home. We went for a walk from Walker Order all the way down to the staff room and back. We had a couple of races, didn't we, soon? While the other half of the group were deaf and they were up here. They had a discussion about climate change, which I don't think went very well, Diego. We had a lot of laughs and fun, as you can see from their faces. The curriculum has two intentions: to teach people what disabilities is and what life is like from a disabled person's perspective. It is not a sit down at your desk and research the whole time type of course. I've created it to bring people together, foster more awareness, more kindness, and especially more friendship. This program that I have created is called Empowering Through Understanding. And as I get ready to leave Greenstone, New Zealand, it is my hope, no, it is my dream that the graduates in years to come, when they leave school, to still go out into the community and help out the disabled students. I would like to finish off with some thank yous. I want to thank Whai Dai and Whai Sarah for all the awhi and support that you gave me along the way. I'd also like to thank Erica Perry, who couldn't be here today. You were a huge source of information that I had. I would also like to thank my family and my friends, and especially you, Molly. Thank you for never changing who you are. Ngā mihi nui, that's Madeline.